My name is Ilara Vance. I would like you to relax and listen as I recounts the public humiliation Marcus, my husband, intended for me, and my calm, shocking countermove. The clinking of champagne flutes filled the air, a celebratory symphony for Chloe's graduation from college. Laughter echoed through the private dining room of the Gilded Spoon, a place Marcus and I had frequented for special occasions for years. I sat there, a serene smile plastered on my face, watching Chloe glow as she accepted congratulations from our closest friends and family. My heart swelled with pride for my daughter, a bittersweet emotion given the storm I knew was brewing. I saw Marcus across the table, his arm draped casually around Chloe's shoulder, playing the doting father, the loving husband. He had no idea what was coming. The entire charade, his carefully constructed illusion, was about to crumble. "I have an announcement," Marcus boomed, tapping his spoon against his glass. A hush fell over the room, all eyes turning to him. My pulse remained steady, my gaze unwavering as I met his. He cleared his throat, a self-important theatrical gesture I knew all too well. "As many of you know, Ilara and I have shared a wonderful life together for 28 years. A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Chloe beamed, oblivious. "However," he continued, his voice taking on a softer, almost regretful tone, "sometimes life takes unexpected turns. And our paths, Ilara's and mine, are diverging." A pregnant silence hung in the air, thick with unspoken questions. I watched as the smiles on our guests' faces faltered, replaced by expressions of confusion, then concern. Marcus paused, letting the words sink in, savoring the dramatic tension. He really enjoyed being the center of attention. Then, he delivered his carefully rehearsed blow. "I found a new path, a new future, with someone who truly understands me, who shares my vision for life. I'm leaving Ilara, and I'm starting a new life with Serafina." A collective gasp swept through the room. Chloe's face, moments ago radiant, crumpled in disbelief. Her eyes, wide and brimming with tears, darted from her father to me. The betrayal in the room was palpable, a suffocating weight. But I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. Instead, I reached into the oversized clutch I had strategically placed beside my chair. My hand closed around the cool, crisp papers I had been carrying all day, their edges worn from countless hours of review and consultation. With deliberate, almost ceremonial slowness, I pulled out the neatly bound stack of documents. The rustle of the paper seemed to amplify in the stunned silence. Marcus, his smug expression beginning to falter, watched me, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. I stood up, my posture regal, my gaze fixed on him. My voice, when I spoke, was calm, clear, and utterly devoid of emotion. "Marcus," I said, holding out the papers, "I believe these belong to you." He took them, his brow furrowed, his eyes scanning the first page. I saw the exact moment his face drained of color, the shock registering as he read the bold heading, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage." His jaw dropped. The carefully constructed facade of the wronged man, forced to seek a new love, shattered instantly. The room erupted in a cacophony of whispers and exclamations. Chloe let out a small sob. "What is this?" Marcus stammered, his voice hoarse, his eyes darting frantically between the documents and my serene face. "Those are divorce papers, Marcus," I replied, my voice a silken thread of steel. "And if you'll turn to page 3, you'll find a rather pertinent section regarding our prenuptial agreement, specifically the fidelity clause you so insisted upon all those years ago. It's quite ironclad, as it turns out." The color completely drained from his face. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. The murmuring in the room intensified, turning into a stunned buzz. He had planned to humiliate me, to make me the discarded wife. But I had turned the tables in public, in front of everyone, revealing his deceit and my meticulous preparation. The irony was exquisite. He had wanted to announce his new life. I had just handed him the blueprint for its dismantling. I watched him, a quiet satisfaction blossoming in my chest. The game, as they say, was finally afoot. My calm demeanor at the Gilded Spoon wasn't born of indifference, but of a deep, simmering resolve cultivated over years of quiet sacrifice. For nearly 3 decades, I had been the steady anchor in Marcus's often tempestuous sea of ambition. My own career aspirations, once vibrant and promising in financial consulting, had been gently, then firmly, placed on the back burner to fuel his. He had grand ideas, often expensive ones, always convinced his next venture would be the one. And I, ever the pragmatist, was always there to pick up the pieces when those ventures inevitably faltered, or at least didn't soar to the stratospheric heights he envisioned. I worked extra hours, took on freelance projects, and meticulously managed our household budget, ensuring Chloe's future was secure, always prioritizing her education. While Marcus chased his next big idea, I was the one quietly building our nest egg, brick by painstaking brick. I saved, I invested, I worried about the future, while he, with a careless shrug, took financial risks that often left us teetering on the edge. Our prenuptial agreement, that ironclad document I had just flung in his face, was a relic from the early days of our marriage, back when he was still an ambitious, somewhat insecure young man desperate to prove himself. He had insisted on it, ironically, believing it would protect him from my potential claims should our marriage ever fail. I remembered signing it with a pang of unease, but I loved him and I trusted him. He had even dictated the fidelity clause himself, a testament to his then strong moral compass, or perhaps simply a youthful display of perceived righteousness. He had long since forgotten its existence, or perhaps conveniently dismissed it, believing it to be a quaint relic of a bygone era. His memory, it seemed, was as selective as his financial ethics. The true unraveling began 3 months prior to Chloe's graduation. A nagging suspicion, a subtle shift in Marcus's routine, led me down a rabbit hole I never intended to explore. It started with late nights that turned into overnight absences, always with a convenient, flimsy excuse. His phone, once left carelessly on the counter, was now glued to his hip, its screen perpetually facing down. One quiet evening while he was working late, I found an old unlocked burner phone tucked away in a drawer he rarely used. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the messages. There it was, a meticulously detailed account of his affair with Serafina. Not just flirtatious banter, but concrete plans for their future, a new life, a grand escape. The most damning discovery was his systematic transfer of significant funds, our funds, to a separate offshore account, clearly intended to finance this new life with her. The texts even explicitly stated his intention to leave me the day after Chloe's graduation, a final act of calculated cruelty designed to spare our daughter the immediate pain of her parents' divorce on such a momentous day. The sheer audacity, the cold-blooded planning turned my stomach. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a deliberate, premeditated financial ambush. In that moment, a cold clarity settled over me. The shock quickly transmuted into a quiet, burning fury. I was a financial professional, for heaven's sake. My entire career had been built on understanding money trails, on uncovering financial discrepancies. The irony was not lost on me. He, the big-picture visionary, had underestimated the quiet, methodical woman he had married. While he was busy crafting his escape, I was already charting my counterattack. The next few weeks became a blur of discreet meetings with attorneys, forensic accountants, and private investigators. I meticulously traced every penny of the transferred funds, gathered irrefutable evidence of the affair, and compiled a dossier that would leave no room for doubt. The divorce papers, the very ones he now clutched in his trembling hands, were prepared with surgical precision, designed to be served at the precise moment of his public declaration. He wanted a scene. I would give him a performance. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear his mind racing, grappling with the magnitude of his miscalculation. You set me up," he whispered, the realization finally dawning on him. "You set yourself up, Marcus," I corrected him calmly. "I merely played the hand you dealt. And I played it better." The conversation deteriorated from there. his desperation escalating into pleas, then threats. He railed against me, against the unfairness of it all, against the manipulation. He threatened to fight me in court to make it ugly. My resolve, however, remained unshakable. I had prepared for this. I had anticipated every possible move. "Marcus," I said, cutting him off, "there's nothing left to discuss. The papers have been served. My decision is final. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. Alone." I hung up, a sense of profound peace settling over me. The confrontation was over. The first battle had been won. Now the path ahead, though undoubtedly challenging, was clear. The weeks that followed Marcus's pathetic attempts at confrontation were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, strategic maneuvers, and a profound sense of liberation. My attorneys, formidable and efficient, worked tirelessly, armed with the undeniable evidence I had meticulously collected. The prenuptial agreement, once a forgotten document, became the cornerstone of my defense and, ultimately, my victory. Marcus's legal team, despite their bluster, quickly realized the insurmountable odds stacked against them. The fidelity clause, which he had so confidently penned years ago, was indeed ironclad. It meant that his marital misconduct, specifically his affair and his attempts to hide and transfer marital assets, directly triggered its most punitive terms. The clauses ensured that I would retain our primary residence, the sprawling house that had been our home for 2 decades and where Chloe had grown up. This was a crucial victory. It meant stability for Chloe during a tumultuous time. More importantly, it meant I wouldn't have to uproot my life, wouldn't have to carry the additional burden of finding a new home. The agreement also secured my full rights to our retirement accounts, those funds I had so diligently contributed to and watched grow over the years, while Marcus pursued his often dubious ventures. A significant portion of our joint investments, meticulously documented and traced by my financial team, also remained with me, leaving Marcus with a surprisingly limited pool of resources. The financial reality of his situation hit Marcus hard. He had envisioned a grand new life with Serafina, financed by what he believed were cleverly hidden assets. But those assets were now firmly in my grasp, leaving his grand plans in tatters. The repercussions were swift and predictable. Serafina, who had seemingly been drawn to Marcus's perceived wealth and future prospects, quickly vanished when the extent of his financial ruin became apparent. Her loyalty, it turned out, was as shallow as his commitment. I received news through mutual acquaintances that she had abruptly ended their relationship, leaving Marcus to face the consequences of his actions alone. The satisfaction I felt was not vengeful, but rather a quiet affirmation that justice, in its own way, was being served. With the legal battles slowly settling into a manageable rhythm, my focus shifted to rebuilding my own life and identity. For so long, my role had been defined by my relationship with Marcus Thorne's wife, the silent support, the financial backbone behind his aspirations. Now, I had the opportunity to reclaim the woman I had set aside years ago, the financial professional with sharp instincts and an unyielding commitment to fiscal responsibility. The idea had been simmering in the back of my mind for months, even before the discovery of Marcus's betrayal. I wanted to help other women. I knew firsthand the vulnerability that comes with relying on a partner for financial security, the devastating impact of infidelity compounded by financial deceit. I decided to launch my own financial consultancy, specializing in helping women navigate significant life transitions, particularly divorce and widowhood. My personal experience, coupled with my extensive professional background, gave me a unique perspective and an empathetic approach. I understood the emotional turmoil, the fear, and the daunting challenge of starting over. My office, a bright, modern space in a vibrant part of the city, became a sanctuary not just for me, but for the women who walked through its doors. I found immense fulfillment in empowering them, in guiding them through the complex world of investments, asset division, and financial planning, helping them to stand on their own 2 feet and build secure futures. Each successful case, each woman I helped reclaim her financial independence, was a testament to my own journey. I was no longer Bianca Caldwell, the discarded wife. I was Ilara Vance, a thriving entrepreneur, a financial expert, and a beacon of hope for others. The pain of betrayal slowly receded, replaced by a profound sense of purpose and empowerment. My work became my passion, a testament to resilience and the unwavering spirit of women. My personal transformation mirrored my professional success, intertwining to create a truly fulfilling existence. The day of the final divorce hearing dawned crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotional landscape of the past year. It was a day laden with symbolism, for it coincided precisely with what would have been Marcus's and my 29th wedding anniversary. The irony was not lost on me, nor on Lena, who accompanied me to the courthouse, a silent pillar of strength by my side. There was no bitterness in my heart, only a quiet resolve and an overwhelming sense of peace. I wore a simple, elegant dress, a subtle nod to the new chapter one was stepping into, unburdened and unchained. Marcus was already there, hunched in his chair, looking considerably older and more disheveled than I remembered. Serafina was conspicuously absent. His face was etched with defeat, a stark contrast to the arrogant swagger he had displayed at Chloe's graduation. He avoided my gaze, unable to meet the eyes of the woman he had so carelessly discarded. His lawyer, a stern-faced woman who had fought a losing battle for months, looked resigned. The proceedings were swift and uneventful, a mere formality given the mountain of evidence and the undeniable validity of the prenuptial agreement. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a kindly but firm demeanor, reviewed the presented documents with efficiency. She read aloud the pertinent clauses of the prenup, highlighting the fidelity clause and its implications given Marcus's proven misconduct. There was a moment when she looked directly at Marcus, her gaze unwavering, and he visibly flinched. Given the irrefutable evidence presented, Mr. Thorne, the judge stated, her voice clear and authoritative, and in strict adherence to the terms of the prenuptial agreement you yourself insisted upon and signed, the court finds in favor of Ms. Vance. She continued, detailing the judgment. I was granted full ownership of the family home, its sentimental value immeasurable. The retirement accounts, those carefully nurtured nest eggs, remained entirely mine. The significant portion of our joint investments, the very funds Marcus had attempted to siphon away, were legally secured to me. He was left with a paltry sum, barely enough to cover his legal fees, and a mountain of debt from his failed ventures and reckless spending. The judge's words were a pronouncement of not just legal victory, but of karmic retribution. Marcus, the man who had sought to leave me penniless and humiliated, was now facing his own financial ruin, abandoned by the woman he had risked everything for. As the judge concluded, gavel striking with a sharp, decisive thud, a wave of profound relief washed over me. It was over. The chapter with Marcus was finally, definitively closed. I looked at him one last time, not with anger, but with a detached pity. He had lost everything he had not because of me but because of his own choices, his own deceit. His ambition had blinded him. His arrogance had undone him, and his betrayal had cost him not just a marriage, but his entire financial future. Outside the courtroom, the sunlight felt exceptionally bright. Lena hugged me tightly, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it, Ilara," she whispered. "You truly did it." I smiled, a genuine radiant smile that reached my eyes. The weight that had unknowingly settled on my shoulders for years, the subtle anxieties of being yoked to Marcus's unpredictability, had lifted entirely. My financial consultancy was thriving, attracting more clients than I could have imagined. I found immense joy in my work, in empowering other women to navigate their own financial transitions, to build their own secure futures. My relationship with Chloe was stronger than ever, forged in the crucible of shared adversity and renewed trust. My life was full, vibrant, and entirely my own. I had reclaimed not just my assets but my identity, my agency, my peace of mind. The painful saga of my marriage had concluded, leaving in its wake a woman transformed, stronger, wiser, and happier than I had ever been. The door on Marcus Thorne and our marriage was firmly, irrevocably closed, and I walked forward into a future brimming with possibility, truly free at last. Then, please don't forget to subscribe for more tales.
Bye.